So, you're a weeaboo waiting for the next season of your favorite anime to come out, and in the meantime, you want to get into For Honor. Well then, look no further. Welcome to the third installment of a series where we take a closer look at each of the heroes in For Honor. Keep in mind that I am no top tier or competitive player, and that this is a guide with newer or more inexperienced players in mind. We will be looking at the important moves and combos for each hero, as well as how to defend against them. I'm also going to strongly recommend you check out Freeze and Blue Moon, as both of these guys have resources such as max punishes and frame data that you can definitely make use of. Learnin also has plenty of high-level guides, commentaries, and other videos for those already familiar with For Honor and its heroes. Now, grab your body pillow, an authentic katana, and let's dive into this crash course on each of the samurai of For Honor. We begin with the vanguard of the samurai faction, a hero I once thought was only played by vegans because pre-rework, everyone would not shut up about how they played Kensei, even when nobody asked. Since the rework, Kensei now has access to every 3-hit chain possible, so throw lights and heavies in whichever order you would like. If you finish the chain with a top heavy, it will become unblockable, while side heavies gain hyper armor. In addition, while Kensei's top heavies may be super slow, they have the ability to soft feint it in the startup by hitting the heavy or light attack button in any other direction, or by hitting the guard break button. Top heavies can also be soft feinted into dodges, and thus a dodge attack, which we'll touch upon soon, including letting the top heavy fly and regular feints. That's 11 different options out of a top heavy. Now, if it is the first top heavy in a chain, hitting guard break will smash your pommel into the opponent's face, guaranteeing a light attack and continuing the chain. If the soft feint guard break is thrown in the second or final heavy, it will guard break instead. Kensei has a dash light and a dash heavy attack, as well as those dodge heavies that I mentioned earlier. What's interesting about these dodge attacks is that, unlike most others, they attack in the opposite direction of the dodge. Kensei also has a pseudo-deflect of sorts. Whenever you dodge, you gain superior block property in that direction. Kenseis can also dash forward and guard break smoothly, allowing you to close distances and grab opponents quickly. Another cool thing is how any guard break throw also dazes the opponent, hiding your guard temporarily from them. Kensei's zone attack comes out deceivingly quick, hitting the opponent's right guard and has 2 parts, the second of which can be feinted. Finally, Kensei has a sprinting heavy attack hitting the left guard, but it comes out pretty slow. Use it to chase fleeing opponents because your top heavy mix-up is a much better opener. As for Kensei's punishes, off a heavy parry, Kensei is guaranteed a top light. Off a light parry, Kensei is guaranteed any side heavy. Guard breaks also guarantee a side heavy. Meanwhile, wall splats guarantee a top heavy. Off an out of stamina parry or forward throw, the max damage is achieved with forward dash light into unblockable top heavy. However, this does end the chain. If you're okay with sacrificing less damage for more mix-up potential, off of a parry you can throw a light in whichever direction your guard was facing and then go into a top heavy. You can then follow that up with another unblockable top heavy for your mix-up. Off a throw, if you want the same mix-up potential, immediately throw a light attack, and then you still have time to side heavy, which does start your chain all over again. In 4v4 modes, Kensei's wide attacks are useful when getting ganked, however often they can interrupt teammates when ganking, so be careful and keep mind of what direction you're hitting. Also, Kensei runs pretty slow and is good at holding points, including the minion lane because of the wide attacks. Kenseis also have 2 very impressive feats up their sleeve that are pretty damn strong: Chilling Stance and Unblockable. The only counter to this is running away, but even then, with Kensei's range, you're never really safe. Now when fighting a Kensei, remember that Kensei's heavies are very slow, especially that top heavy, and it can often be interrupted with a fast enough attack. In addition, as annoying as the dodge heavies can be, if you notice they like to rely on them, you can bait them out with a feint and then parry them or deflect. Be aware of the quick zone attack and always be ready to block on your right side as well. And don't panic. Kenseis may have a bunch of options, especially out of the top heavy, but all of it can be read or reacted to with patience. We now move on to Sumogoki, Shrek-Goki, the big green love machine. Shugo Daddy is arguably the worst hero in the game, unfortunately. Yeah, he may have passive hyper armor, but his attacks might as well be in slow motion. The hyper armor is always active, meaning you can't be interrupted by most attacks. However, if a hit does get through, your hyper armor goes down and you actually take more damage for a reason. Getting guard broken, even if you counter it, also lowers your hyper armor. It comes back after a few seconds, and it's often used to attack or guard break through enemy attacks. If you manage to land a hit, you can continue the chain or hit guard break for a stunning headbutt. You can also charge your heavy by holding it down to make it unblockable and deal more damage. Finally though, Shugoki has one move that some people cry makes him OP. Believe it or not, there is a weird silver lining here. If you move backwards and press guard break, you will rush up to your enemy and give them a hug so powerful it will heal you. Better yet, if you're at critical health, it will instantly kill the enemy. This goes for the commanders in Breach as well. However, if you miss, and it is sure easy to miss it, you lose health. Oh, did I say silver lining? I meant tin. Tin lining. Shugo has his own attack. It's there, I guess. While sprinting, you can hit dodge to become too quick, too thick, and stagger opponents and potentially ledge them, or throw a heavy attack. Now as for Shugoki's punishes, Shugoki can get a light into headbutt off of any heavy parry, and a light parry gives a top heavy into headbutt. Both of these will likely put your opponent out of or close to out of stamina. Guard breaks can also give you the light into headbutt, or for more damage and more fun, you can hit a home run by hitting heavy. Wall splats guarantee a side heavy, however, you can get a top heavy if you throw a little bit further away from the wall. Max throw distance will even give you an unblockable heavy. Alternatively, you can hug them off a wall splat for 50 damage plus healing. Out of stamina parries and throws give you a top heavy, a top light into top heavy, or a charged heavy which leaves you potentially vulnerable to a guard break on wake up. I've also heard that out of stamina parries can guarantee the hug, but the timing is tough. Now in 4v4s, good luck when getting ganked. Yeah, hyper armor is nice and all, but slow attacks are not. When ganking, the unblockable pressure is a great asset, and the hugs immobilize enemies, opening them up to attacks from your allies and stopping them from activating revenge. When Shugoki, you're slow, decent at holding points, but not good at chasing. As for feats, Shugo has a few making him a helpful team player like Speed Revive and Rock Steady, and while Punch Through was nerfed a while ago, it's still somewhat useful in ganks when opponents are just blocking. However, most people opt for the longbow. As for tips when fighting Shugoki.
You serious?
Supposing it isn't a Shugoki just waiting for you to attack so they can abuse their hyper armor guard break, Shugo's attacks are slow and easy to parry, as I mentioned earlier. A trick that even works against Shugokis that turtle to guard break is fighting fire with fire. Any guard break, even if countered, lowers the hyper armor, meaning they cannot rely on it for a few seconds, allowing you to be less cautious and maybe be a bit more offensive. Final reminder though, when he's at critical health, avoid walls at any cost, as hugs could be imminent. Rumor has it that if you had $1 every time an Orochi used a light attack, you'd be wealthier than the entire world 3 times over by now. And now make that 4 times. The assassin of the samurai, Orochi has a reflex guard, lower health, but high evasion and, of course, quick attacks. Just as Warden has his or her double side lights, Orochi has 2 confirmed top lights if the first one connects. After any combo chain, you can recover with a dodge, allowing you to chain into dodge attacks and keep going, assuming your opponent doesn't know how to block.
It goes on and 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 on.
Orochi has access to back dodge heavy and light attacks, as well as side dodge light attacks, all which can be used to transition into new combos. The back dodge heavy is interesting because you can actually change the direction the attack will come out at pretty much any time up until it's actually thrown. Orochi's dodge and dash lights, as well as the top attack from the back dodge heavy, all have an undodgeable property, so the only counters are blocking and parrying. Orochi's zone attack is a single hit targeting the opponent's right guard and is frequently used after feinting or to finish fights, much like how Warden players do it. Finally, Orochi's sprinting heavy is rather slow, and the dodge or dash lights are often predictable, so to start fights, Orochi is usually a reactive fighter. Moving on now to the punishes. Heavy parries give Orochi the double top light, whereas light parries guarantee a top heavy. Yes, despite what people say, Orochi does have heavy attacks. On either of these parries, you also have the option to go for a zone attack for more area of effect damage. Now, like all assassins, Orochi also has a deflect. Off a deflect, you have two options. You can throw a confirmed light attack, or a heavy attack that has much more damage and hyper armor. However, this deflect heavy is a lot slower, and opponents can actually dodge it unless they're continuing their chain. You can cancel the deflect heavy with a dodge or a guard break. Guard breaks guarantee a top heavy. Don't bother with wall splats, as Orochi's throw distance is pitiful, and you get the same attack anyhow. As for out of stamina max punishes, guard breaks, side throws, and parries guarantee back-to-back top heavies. Now what about in group situations? Well, Orochi's reflex guard and lower health pool hurts when getting ganked, however faster attacks can help overwhelm enemies that are getting ganked. Like Peacekeeper, you can move from point to point, enemy to enemy, and be a good harasser. And it might be a bitch strategy, but fleeing to a point and regaining health does keep you alive rather than getting overwhelmed by numerous enemies and feeding renown. Regarding the feats, Orochi's infamous Ki was never a problem until the rework, and the smoke bomb is a good crowd/area control feat. And the combination of Sharpened Blade and Fear itself will melt most enemies if they can't block. Now, how do you counter an Orochi? Just block. Orochi's openers are fast light attacks. There isn't really much that forces a reaction. It's delayed attacks, input lag, TVs, and connection that causes the attacks to be a little bit more unstoppable than they actually are. Feinting heavies against jumpy Orochis may cause them to react with a dodge attack. Easy light parries for you. My last tip would be to keep in mind those feints into zone attacks, and remember to guard break early almost predictively to catch any dodge or dash attacks. We now move on to the OG bleed bitch and Warden's waifu, Nobushi. As the hybrid of the core samurai faction, Nobushis tend to keep their distance with their longer reaching attacks, as well as deal more damage when the opponent is bleeding to keep pressure on. If the second light in Nobushi's chain connects, a follow-up light attack in the same direction is guaranteed and does bleed damage. To help keep distance, Nobushi also has a bleeding poke that can be performed by moving backwards and hitting light attack. Nobushi also has access to dash and dodge lights that deal bleed damage, and they start her 3-hit light combo. You can also dodge heavy with Nobushi, which, like Kensei's dodge attacks, hit the opposite direction of the dodge. She also has access to a kick that can be performed after any standard light, heavy, or dodge heavy. You can follow up the kick with a guaranteed bleed poke, or, if it wall splats, a guaranteed top heavy attack. You also have access to a unique hidden stance. By blocking downward, Nobushi leans back into a stance that has a dodge property on startup and hides her guard. From here, you can kick with guard break, throw the second light in the chain, meaning you get a free bleed follow-up, heavy attack, or dodge. Also, due to recovery times, if your heavy from hidden stance is blocked, the follow-up kick is guaranteed. There's much more to it than that though. Hidden stance can be used to cancel attack recovery, as well as cancel attack startups, even light attacks. To further increase the space between you and an opponent, after a successful block, you can hit dodge to step back quickly. Nobushi's zone attack hits the opponent's left guard twice, with the second attack dealing bleed damage and being feintable. It's a wide sweeping attack that is great at clearing groups of enemies. Finally, while sprinting, Nobushi can throw a bleeding light that hits the opponent's left guard, or a heavy hitting the same side. We now move on to Nobushi's punishes. Heavy parries guarantee either the moving backwards light bleed poke, or the first move in the zone attack. Light parry means free top heavy. If you use hidden stance to dodge an attack, your punish depends on the attack's recovery time. Longer recovery time guarantees you a top or a side heavy, obviously depending, and shorter ones guarantee a double light or a kick. Note that if you hidden stance quick attacks like Orochi's light attack and they follow up with another, your attack won't beat it, so your best option is to actually dodge out. Guard break and wall splats both guarantee a top heavy, or you can throw in any direction and follow up with a light bleed for free bleed. Out of stamina parries guarantee top light into top heavy, which you can then follow up with a kick if you'd like. Guard break throws, you wait a little bit for the guaranteed light, then top heavy, which can be followed up with a kick once they get up to keep pressure on. Now, many people consider Nobushi to be a must in 4s, and it's really not hard to see why. Alone, she may not be the strongest fighter, but when paired with a shaman, for example, they can do absurd damage due to Nobushi's easy access to bleed attacks, and of course Shaman's Bite. She is also arguably one of, if not the best minion clearers in the game with her zone attack, which is also useful when getting ganked as it can keep multiple opponents at bay. In regards to her feats, body count is a must, of course, with how well she clears minions, and the rest are really totally up to playstyle if you prefer support or offense. Now what about how to counter Nobushi? Well, if you're fighting a Nobushi that loves to use hidden stance to counter you, you can bait them into it by feinting a heavy into light, or soft feint if available. Guard breaks against her are not guaranteed while she is in hidden stance, unlike Conqueror, Warlord, or Aramusha's all block. Her attacks aren't the fastest, meaning they're easier to parry than, say, Orochi's light attacks. And as soon as you see orange after a heavy attack, hit that dodge button. Don't preemptively do it because they could be baiting the dodge for a guard break.
Hello there.
We've finally made our way to General Shinobi, the first DLC hero of the Samurai faction and the ninja of For Honor. Shinobi, like all other assassins, has a reflex guard and a very tiny health pool. However, unlike any other hero in the game, they have access to ranged attacks as well. More on that later. Any Shinobi light attack that lands confirms another one in the same direction. Similarly, any close-up heavy can be followed up with a free light in the same direction. If the second heavy in a chain lands, Shinobi can pull the opponent to their knees and follow up with 3 light attacks, dealing bleed damage. They have to be input after each hit and not spammed. Now, for those aforementioned ranged attacks. Shinobis can charge their heavy attack at range by holding heavy. Releasing that attack will throw it, and it can be followed up with another ranged heavy. Note that this second one, though, doesn't pull enemies to the ground. Alternatively, you can hit guard break while charging to perform a ranged guard break that pulls the opponent in. It counts as the first hit in a chain, meaning a guaranteed follow-up heavy pulls the opponent to the ground for those follow-up light attacks. After a ranged heavy, you can press dodge to roll up to the opponent. This roll can be followed up with a kick by hitting guard break immediately, which guarantees another ranged heavy. If you don't do the kick, you can alternatively follow up with a heavy that will bring the opponent down to their knees if it lands. Similarly, after any close-up combo or move, you can hit dodge to backflip away, allowing you to safely charge your ranged attacks. Shinobi also has access to a unique double dodge, done by dodging to any side twice. This can be followed up with a hyper armor kick by pressing guard break, which guarantees a ranged heavy, or a ranged guard break, but it's not guaranteed. Out of the double dodge, you can still flow into normal heavy and light attacks. Essentially what all this means with the flipping back and forth and all this other stuff, theoretically you can infinitely chain attacks if your opponent doesn't know how to block. Shinobi's zone attack is a cool looking butterfly kick hitting the opponent's left guard with a secondary follow-up attack that cannot be cancelled, making it useful for finishing off opponents or clearing minions and nothing else. Finally, Shinobis can chase down their opponents by channeling their inner Naruto and hitting sprint twice. It does drain stamina, but it allows them to move quicker. While sprinting or Naruto sprinting, you can hit guard break to slide tackle, which guarantees the double light. Moving on now to Shinobi's punishes. Heavy parries will give you a special bleed light attack, or you can delay it to get that double light. A light parry gets a heavy into free light. But as an assassin, remember that Shinobi has deflect options. You can deflect guard break to teleport behind and kick, which guarantees a ranged heavy, or you can deflect light to nothing personnel kid bleed attack them. Guard breaks and wall splats guarantee heavy into free light, and out of stamina parries will give you back-to-back top heavies, while guard break throws are just the heavy into free light. However, if you're in revenge, there's this special combo. If you deflect and kick, it will actually knock the opponent down. You can follow that up with a heavy, you can roll up to them and hit another side heavy. Like other assassins, Shinobi having a reflex guard and lower health pool can make it a little bit more problematic when getting ganked in 4v4 modes. If you're overwhelmed, you can try Naruto running to reinforcements or capture a point to heal. Your ranged attacks are probably one of the most frustrating things in the game for your opponents though. Especially if you're behind them and they cannot see you, ranged guard breaks out of nowhere are particularly strong. As for the feats though, Shinobi has 2 feats that give back stamina and health on successful hits. Enough said. Now let's take a trip down memory lane how I said that fighting a peacekeeper was kind of like fighting an annoying mosquito that would just try to take your blood and fly away. Shinobi is like that, but a lot worse, because of the higher mobility. If you are fighting a Shinobi that likes to keep its distance, the fight is going to be annoying and tedious. But if you manage to counter any ranged attacks, however, they do get pulled to the ground, opening them up for more attacks. Remember that the double dodge kick can still be followed up with a ranged attack, even if it misses. So you aren't guaranteed a guard break after dodging that double dash kick. But if you are close up, many Shinobis will try to dodge away to create distance, so guard breaking in anticipation of this may catch them mid-dodge. We now finish off the Samurai Guide with Aramusha, the edgy Ronin of the Samurai faction. Wielding 2 swords, Aramusha can keep throwing attacks until he runs out of stamina, or if the opponent can block. Theoretically, Aramusha can infinitely throw light and or heavy attacks as long as they alternate between side and top attacks. You can start with either a top or side attack, but as long as you switch back and forth, your chain continues. The chain finishes once you throw a side heavy after any side attack, or a top heavy after any top attack. However, it doesn't actually necessarily have to end there. When performing that final heavy chain finisher, you can soft feint the attack with a light in any other direction and keep the ball rolling. Aramusha also has access to dash heavies that can start chains. However, what's interesting about these is that the direction they hit is actually dependent on your guard's direction, as opposed to most others just being a standard attack. These attacks can be feinted, yes, even the goofy stop in midair top heavy one, which, by the way, has hyper armor. Now, as a heavy/assassin hybrid, aside from the fast-ish attacks, Aramusha also has access to a full block. But it kinda sucks, at least compared to what else is out there. Unlike Conqueror and Warlord, the all block cannot be held, and the recovery time is atrocious. A successful block in this stance lets you follow up with a guaranteed pommel strike by hitting the light attack button, or a falcon kick by hitting guard break. The kick wall splats and can ledge, but doesn't guarantee any follow-up attack on its own. Both of these attacks also stun or daze the opponent. You also have the option of a top heavy that starts chains, but it's only guaranteed on light attacks if I recall correctly. It can be blocked. There's also unblockable hyper armor side heavies that can be soft feinted into lights to start a combo chain. Another cool thing is that when sprinting, you can press heavy to do some Shinobi-esque teleporting attack, and if it misses, press again to follow up with another attack. A 2-part zone, the first attack quickly hits the opponent's left guard, then a feintable, unblockable attack hits the right guard. We now move on to Aramusha's punishes. Heavy parries will guarantee a top heavy, light parries will guarantee a side heavy. Guard breaks guarantee a top heavy, while wall splats guarantee a side heavy. Out of stamina parries will guarantee you back-to-back side heavies, or you can go side heavy into top heavy if you want to continue your combo chain. Out of stamina throws to the right give you a side heavy to start your combo chain. Whereas back and forward throws let you whiff a side light into a finisher side heavy for more damage but no combo chain. Out of stamina throws into a wall will let you do more damage, but the attacks depend on your guard's direction. If your guard is to the top, throw top light into top heavy, and if your guard is to the side, throw side light into side heavy. Alternatively, of course, you can throw the light and then change the direction of the heavy to continue your chain but deal less damage. Now, truth be told, I haven't touched Aramusha in ages, nor seen one in 4s. Arguably anything he does can be done better by someone else. But he's decent at taking opponents on one at a time, short range, and the only good clearing move being his zone make him predictable though when getting ganked, and his feats, well, they're a bit of a mixed bag. Seeing as he's a hybrid of an assassin and a heavy, his feats reflect that and can make for some interesting combinations. However, once again, the combination of Sharpened Blade and Fear itself is really all you need. There is one secret tip to stopping an Aramusha. Aramusha players everywhere hate me because of this. Are you ready? Just block. Just blocking is the one way to shut down an Aramusha, as their only offensive move that can force a reaction is the zone attack. Be ready to block the right at any given time for that zone attack, and just remember the basic attack pattern of an Aramusha is side, top, side, top, side, top. Of course, aside from the feints. Watch the character animation if the soft feints are catching you. There's usually a little nudge or tell when they're gonna go for the soft feint and which direction it will be in. But if the Aramusha is a bit more defensive and prefers relying on their all block, they can't counter guard break while in that stance, so feint and guard break. And that about wraps it up. Thank you so much for watching and your patience waiting for the video to get released. I also want to give a huge thanks to my Patreon supporters, especially Trung, Bubbles PL, and Tobias Jaschob. The Patreon link is down in the description below if you want to support the channel with more than just a YouTube subscription. Once again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.